Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Carried Away Travels. In this week's video, I'm going to tell you how you can swim with whale sharks if you're in the Cancun or Playa del Carmen areas of Mexico. Back in September, Daniel and I spent a few days down in the Riviera Maya area of Mexico, and one of the top things on our bucket list has been swimming with whale sharks. So when we saw that that is one of the most popular eco tours in this part of Mexico, we knew we needed to sign up and make sure that we at least tried while we were on this trip. We ended up having an absolutely incredible, really mind-blowing experience on this. We got so much more than we bargained for, even though we went right at the end of the season. And so today I am so excited to tell you about the company that we took this tour with and generally what you can expect if you decide to book a whale shark tour as well. If this is your first time here, I'm Carrie and I share helpful travel tips, itineraries, gear recommendations, and more so you can always have the perfect trip. My goal today is to answer any questions you might have about booking a whale shark tour in this part of Mexico. I'm going to tell you about the company we went with. I highly recommend them. They were great, but I want you to know what to expect if you book with them and generally what you can expect if you book with any tour company in this part of Mexico, and just make sure you are fully prepared for what this awesome experience entails. If this sounds like the kind of content you want more of in your feed, make sure you hit that subscribe button to make sure you get more videos like this from me in the future. By the way, make sure you stay tuned all the way to the end of the video because I have a big tip for you to maximize your whale shark tour experience. Whenever I go to book tours in a foreign country, I typically go to Viator or Get Your Guide first, just because it's so easy to see all the different tours in one place. And a lot of times they have really nice policies on like reserve now, pay later, or even cancel up to 24 hours before, which when travel plans can change at any time. I really do like that peace of mind. For this particular excursion, I ended up using Get Your Guide, and they had a number of great looking whale shark tours with really good reviews, but the one I ended up booking was hosted by EcoColors Tours. A couple things that initially stood out to me with this company was that for the price of $350, so $175 each, they did also include round trip pickup from our hotel, which was down in Playa del Carmen. The actual tour was up in Cancun, closer to Isla Mujeres. So for us to book a taxi there wouldn't exactly have been cheap. So I liked that it included round trip transportation. It also included some food, an English speaking guide, and all of the snorkeling equipment that we needed. So it was a nice all-in-one for the price. And again, it had really good reviews. So I felt good about booking them through Get Your Guide. And in case you're wondering, the prices on the EcoColors Tours website is the same as what's on Get Your Guide. So you're paying the exact same price for the third-party website. In case that does make a difference for you, I think I might have actually had like a voucher for Get Your Guide, so it ended up being a little bit cheaper. So that's just another reason why I love booking through them. If you're interested in booking this same tour through Get Your Guide, I have an affiliate link down below. Please keep in mind, if you book through that link, I may receive a small commission at no extra cost to you. Just helps go to support the blog. If you have any questions, just let me know. So let's go ahead and talk about our experience with EcoColors Tours. Now, first things first, they are going to contact you before, probably around 6 p.m. the day before the tour, to schedule your pickup. Now, for us, because we were coming all the way from Playa del Carmen, that was like 5:15 in the morning. It was a very, very early morning for us. And good news, the van was very comfy, so, we could nap a little bit. I was definitely dozing in and out as we went. If you are closer to Cancun, you will have a later pickup. It won't be nearly as bad, but for us, we were the first people they picked up and the last ones they dropped off. So just something to keep in mind. They want you on the water, I think around 8:30 in the morning. So they got to pick everyone up, get you up there. It is a long day. Once everybody is picked up, your tour guide will start to tell you a little bit about whale sharks and just what to expect with them, safety procedures, like don't swim directly in front of the whale shark's mouth, or don't touch the whale shark, things like that. Should be common sense, but just in case. Ours also just had some kind of fun facts about sharks and just information on like conservation efforts. Now, I did not realize prior to this experience that Mexico had such strict laws on like ecotourism and sustainability and such. And they are very, very particular about swimming with the whale sharks and protecting the reefs and things like that. And one of the biggest things they crack down on is sunscreen. Now, I had read online that there are certain brands of sunscreen that are like Mexico approved. It has to be like biodegradable and waterproof. Like you can't just put on your normal like banana boat. Like it has to be very, very specific. And so I bought some of that. But when we got there, they told us we could not wear sunscreen. And this is something I want to emphasize, right? You see this. I would still do this tour again, but you need to be prepared to get crisped up a little bit, especially if you look like me. It was a long day on the boat, exposed to sun without sunscreen, because they just told us we couldn't put it on. They said if you wanted to, you could put it on the night before, which I did, but I mean, there is a time limit on this. And I was initially okay with that because they said we could like have sun protection clothes on the boat and things like that. But when we got there, they said we couldn't have clothes on. We needed to be in our swimsuits, ready to jump in the water at a moment's notice so that we could swim with these creatures. And so I did not have my sun protection hoodie. I did not have my long pants. And that is something I would just definitely caution. I ended up getting so burnt on my left side because I was exposed to the sun. They did have like an awning that went over most of the seats, but Daniel and I were not under that awning. So I would definitely say as soon as the main snorkeling portion is over, which is going to be early afternoon, ask them if you can get your long sleeve shirt or a towel or something out and cover up, because when I got burnt was in the second part of the day. So I really want to emphasize that you cannot wear sunscreen. And that is just, it's worth the risk, personally, but that's just something to keep in mind. Make sure when the time comes, you cover up as much as you can. A little bit of a rabbit trail there, but I really wanted to make sure you understood that early on in this video. So once we arrived at the docks, they actually had like breakfast for us, which I thought was really nice. We had already eaten some food, but they had donuts and some other Mexican pastries and water bottles. So we could have had like a nice little breakfast there. I thought that was a very nice gesture because that was not initially mentioned on the tour description, so that was like a bonus meal. They also have like this little booth there where you can buy motion sickness pills, which is not something I ever really struggle with, but they did emphasize that you just never know how choppy the waters are going to be, and if more than 2 people are getting sick, they will end the tour. And so again, I do not struggle with motion sickness, but I was like, what if today's the day? I don't want to be that person. So we just went ahead and bought motion sickness pills. I think it was 2 pills for $2 or $3. So you might just want to bring your own, but I would say even if you don't normally struggle with it, you just don't know what to expect. You can't predict the weather. And again, you don't want to be the person that makes the whole tour end early. So either bring your own motion sickness medication or buy some there. That's just something I would say just go ahead and do. While we were at the docks, they had us sign some waivers as well, and we had the option to rent wetsuits. We decided not to. They were like an extra, I want to say $15 per person, and we were just like, we don't really feel like we need them. They probably would have given us some more sun protection, to be fair, but we just opted not to do that. And then after everyone was ready, they split us up into groups with designated guides and then told us which boat to go to. Once we got on the boat, the guides and the captains made sure that we all had the snorkeling equipment that we needed. They made sure everyone got fitted with the appropriate size fins and then stowed all of our stuff in the area underneath the boat. And so we did keep out our water bottle and our sunglasses. I'm very glad we did that. But like all of our clothes, our towels, those kind of things were down below. However, if you need something during the trip, you can technically ask and they will open that up for you. After this, our tour officially started. It was around 8:45 a.m. and we drove around in our boat for about an hour and a half before we saw wildlife. Now, it was absolutely beautiful, but in all honesty, I fell asleep because I was exhausted and the boat was very relaxing. But while I was awake, I did really enjoy looking around. It's just such a beautiful area. The water is such a gorgeous blue. And I did read a lot of comments on this tour that were like, make sure you look in the water because there is so much wildlife. Like people see sea turtles and dolphins and starfish and all sorts of stuff. So we went about an hour and a half out until we found this giant pod of dolphins. And I love dolphins, okay? I have done a number of dolphin tours, but I have never swam with dolphins. And that was on my bucket list, and I did not realize that that would be a possibility on this tour. So we come across this pod of dolphins, and I mean, there's so many of them. Like, they're all coming up at once, and they're over here, and then they're over here, and I was like, I was happy just to see dolphins. And then they start telling us to get our flippers on and our masks because we're gonna jump in and swim with them. And I was excited. Like, that was another bucket list item for me. And I had no idea, like it should have crossed my mind, but I didn't realize that there was a possibility that we could do that on this tour. So the first thing we did that day was jump in with a pod of dolphins, and it was one of the most magical moments of my life. I actually think it might be the most magical moment because I just jumped in and then the bubbles cleared and they were just right there. There were so many of them. They were just right there and they like turned around and they kind of looked at us and then they swam off, and the whole thing, like the whole swimming experience was maybe like 60 seconds, but it was like time stopped and it was the most magical minute of my life. It was so fun. I literally don't even have words to describe it. So keep in mind, if you book a whale shark tour, you may also be able to swim with dolphins in the wild, and it's absolutely amazing. Sorry, I am just still so pumped up about that. So whenever they see wildlife, they drop you off in small groups. I guess some of the ecotourism rules just have a limit on how many people can be in the water at any given time with these creatures. So we went in, I believe, groups of 4. And so Daniel and I and another couple jumped in, and then the boat went ahead and dropped a couple other people off. Then they circled back and got us. So ideally, depending on like how long wildlife is in an area, they'll let you jump in a couple different times. For the dolphins, they did speed off pretty fast, so it was just once. But with any of the wildlife, just so you know, they'll try to get you at least 2 jumps in the water with them, just to kind of maximize your time without messing up any of the restrictions that are in place. After we got back in the boat from swimming with the dolphins, they actually gave us a snack, which again, wasn't expecting. They had Cokes for us, and I want to say a ham and cheese sandwich. So that was really nice. Once again, was not listed on the initial tour breakdown, but that was actually really nice because at that point we had been out in the water for like 2 hours or so. So that was a nice little bonus meal. After the dolphin encounter, we didn't see a ton of wildlife for a while. We saw a lot of flying fish, which are really interesting. They can go for a long ways. I did not really realize what they were like. I tried to get a video, but a lot of them were really small. We also saw several manta rays, and we were actually going to jump in the water with the manta rays, but we got distracted because as we approached the manta rays, we finally found our first whale shark. Now, throughout the whole day, our captain was in contact over the radio with a bunch of other boats in the area, and they all communicate with each other to share where they've spotted wildlife because they want everyone to be able to see it. So we were actually headed in this direction because there had been a whale shark spotting close to where we were, and then we veered off to see the manta rays, and there just so happened to be another whale shark here. It was a young one, but I am still blown away by how huge he was for like a baby. I couldn't tell from the boat, but when we jumped in the water, he was just absolutely huge, and it was such an incredible experience. You can see from this video it was a little bit chaotic, but once again, like, the bubbles just cleared and he was right there. They make a point to drop you off like right in front of it and like just look straight ahead. We will make sure you are like directly in front of it, so you just look ahead. And I mean, they did a great job. It just appeared, and so once we were in the water, we had to make sure we were away from his mouth and then just turn and swim alongside him. Oh, he was so beautiful. It was insane just to be that close. You could see all his spots. His gills were huge. Like, it was just a very, very majestic creature, and he went so fast. I was swimming as fast as I could, and he just, I mean, he was moving. Now, at this point, they had a number of other boats had come over where we were, and they do have regulations on how many boats can be in an area and how many people can be in the water at the same time. So all these different boats started dropping people in the water. And so our guide was gonna let us have a second jump with the whale, but it got scared because there was too many people in the area and he went really deep. So we did only get to have the one swim with him, but very similar to the dolphins, the like 40 seconds we got with him in the water was absolutely incredible. Just the opportunity to be that close to a creature like that, even if it's just for a few seconds, was so cool. So cool. Obviously, I would have loved more time. I will 100% be trying to do this again. But it was so worth the long day in the boat just to be there and have that experience. After this, we drove around for a little while longer looking for more wildlife, and we did spot another pod of manta rays, whatever you call them, and they were going to let us jump in with them, and then they disappeared. We did spy, I think, a couple more dolphins, but we didn't actually jump in the water with any like big wildlife. And they did give us the option to either head back to Isla Mujeres for lunch or spend like another 30 minutes on the water. It was unanimous. Everyone wanted to keep looking for creatures, but we eventually had to just call it. And so they took us to Isla Mujeres, which took probably another 30 to 45 minutes on the boat. It was a decent ways away, but this was such a beautiful place too. I did not realize what it was like, and it is just this little oasis. Well, it's an island. The water is absolutely stunning. It is just this bright blue, and there is a reef right off the side of the island, and so they dropped us off there and we got to snorkel around this reef for several minutes, which was also a really cool experience. There's all sorts of colorful coral and plant life and fish, and so we were able to enjoy more sea creatures in the water for a little bit there before lunch. We actually did one more thing before lunch. They picked us up from the reef and then took us over to the shallower area of Isla Mujeres, and they have like buoys marking where the boats have to stay behind. And the water is just so blue and clear, and it is just absolutely perfect for just splashing around in. And like, there's boats lined up all over. There are people with their floaties and blasting music, and so it's definitely kind of like a little party zone. So we got to just mess around in the shallows there for a little bit. There were some more fish that were like clear, but I think they gave us like maybe 15 minutes just to enjoy the sun and the white sand and the clear water. It was very fun. And then they called us back to the boat for lunch, which they had a ceviche. I am allergic to fish, so I got chips and fresh guacamole, which was fine by me. That's one of my favorite snacks. They did also have like a salad. I just went with the chips and guac. So that is the main meal that is listed on the tour description. Again, we got 2 bonus meals, and then they kept giving us like bottled water and Coke too. But if you do have a seafood allergy, just know that your options are gonna be a little limited there. And after lunch, that was pretty much the end of the tour. They took us back to the dock, which was probably about 30 more minutes. When we got back to the dock, everyone had the opportunity to change into dry clothes in the restrooms there. And then they loaded us back up into our original van and took us home. Just so you know, if there's anything you don't want to take on the boat, you can leave it in the van. They will have someone with it all day. At least that's what they told us. We didn't leave anything, but we did go in the exact same van. And then we ended up getting dropped off around 5:30 p.m. So it was a 12-hour day. So just keep that in mind. If you, like, once again, if you're coming from Cancun, it's going to be a lot shorter. Like, that probably would have cut off 3 to 4 hours of our day. But because we were coming from Playa del Carmen, it did really extend our time. So that is definitely something you should consider. And that was our experience with EcoColors Tours. Now, just to wrap things up, I want to touch on a few things I would recommend bringing with you. I've mentioned a few throughout the video, but I want to put all of that in one place so you can easily reference it. First up, I would recommend bringing bottled water. They did keep us pretty well supplied with bottles throughout the day, but just in case, I always like to have mine, especially if we're going to be going back and forth on a long drive like we did. I was glad we had ours. I recommend polarized sunglasses. They specifically mentioned that the polarization makes it easier to spot wildlife in the water. And I found that to be very true. Just looking out at the water with my eyes versus with the sunglasses on, I could tell a really big difference. Plus, it also it's super bright. So I would have your sunglasses and keep those out. You will need your own towel. I would also recommend an action camera that's waterproof. We took our GoPro. We're always very happy with that, and I thought that captured our experiences pretty well. And if you have one, you might want like a rash guard or something with like long sleeves that's actual swimwear. You can't just wear like a long sleeve shirt, but if you do have something that's built for swimming, that would probably be a good choice for this trip as well. I also recommend a hat just for that extra sun protection and motion sickness medication. Other than that, you should be pretty good to go with what the tour supplies you. Again, I thought they did a great job with the extra snacks, and they had all the equipment, and the staff was all super helpful. Like, they were great. They were so friendly. Our guide was awesome. She spoke great English. So like the tour was half in English, half in Spanish. So she would repeat it. Whatever she said, she'd say it in both languages, which I thought was very, very nice. And so I absolutely loved our experience with them. I thought it was a great value. We got more than we anticipated, so they over delivered, and it just ended up being an absolutely awesome tour. Now, I did promise you a special tip at the end of this video, so here you go. The best time to see whale sharks in Mexico is from June to September, and right in the middle is going to be optimal viewing time. We went on the literal last day of the season where they have a cutoff and they make tours stop. So we were fortunate that we got to see a whale shark at all. So if you were thinking like, oh, they didn't really see a lot, that is because of our timing. So if you want to really maximize your chances of seeing multiple whale sharks, make sure you go more in the middle of the season and not on the end of it like we did. All right, guys, that is all from me for today. Thank you so much for stopping by to watch this video. I hope you enjoyed learning about our experience, about this tour company, and just what you have the opportunity to see in this part of Mexico. It is amazing. I cannot recommend it enough, whether you go with this tour company or another one that maybe you think you'll like better. I recommend you try it out. Um, just the opportunity to experience something like this is just amazing. So, if this is on your bucket list, I would highly recommend you prioritize it while you are in this part of Mexico. If you have any questions that I didn't answer, please feel free to drop those below. I want to make sure you are fully prepared for this experience, so I'll happily get back to you as fast as I can. I also encourage you to leave any comments down below. I love to hear from you guys. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, save, and subscribe to Carried Away Travels so you can get more videos from me in the future. Thanks again, and happy travels!